For today's training, I want to go over a simple way to introduce or add a add-on to your boarding and or daycare services in the form of a lick mat. Now, it could also be a stuffed Kong, for example, but for whatever reason, people are loving the idea of lick mats right now. So I specifically made an 8-step guide on how to add a lick mat add-on offer. Everything from how to price it, potentially how much money you can make per month, what kind of supplies you need, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into that. Now, what I'll ask you to do is if you want access to the step-by-step PDF, I can definitely share that with you and I'll show you exactly what it is right here, where it literally says steps 1 all the way through 8, specifically what you need to be aware of and what you need to do. If you want access to this, just comment wherever you can or message me PDF and I can get you, complimentary access to that. I'm also going to show a bit of another um, screen to write some of this stuff out so it makes perfect sense. I'm just taking me a moment to find the applicable thing to share. All right, so to begin with, 8 simple steps to adding a lick mat add-on offer. Okay, I've really covered most things. Obviously, it's not an exhaustive list, but it will get you started in the right direction. Just to begin with, if you were to hypothetically sell about 5 per day, around $10 each, that would equate to an additional $1,500 or so monthly, and you could probably get started for around $200, all supplies included, including the actual food. So it can potentially be great return on investment, utilizing existing team members that you already have. So anyways, like I said, comment PDF if you want that file step by step. What I'll do is go through this and write this out a little bit for you. So step number 1 is gather supplies. So what supplies do you need? And I'll just write this out here. Number 1, you need the actual lick mats. You can get them from the dollar store or on Amazon or somewhere online. Ranges from $3 and up. Dollar store might be less money than that. Qualities can vary. I did include a direct link to some options on Amazon in the PDF. Number 2, what you need is ingredients, meaning food ingredients. Some options are, no sugar added applesauce, plain yogurt, canned plain pumpkin, frozen fruits like blueberries, peanut butter, cheese whiz, dog treats, etc. The list could go on. What you can do is actually thaw out the blueberries a little bit and then mash them into the lick mat. That can help, and then refreeze it. Anyways, the third piece might be a freezer. So typically it's going to be best for keeping things in, a good condition. I should clarify that. For if you have a freezer, I would definitely use it and pre-make these lick mats because they can be easily taken out and then given to the dogs. If you pre-made 10, 15, 20, all the way to up to 50 or beyond that, it allows you to kind of like assembly line put the trays or the lick mats together, where you might have a staff member dedicated for half an hour to an hour and a half doing a whole pile of them versus only doing it as needed. That's going to be really inefficient. And, your employee costs are going to kind of skyrocket from there. So I would personally get a freezer, assemble them, put them in the freezer, and then you can hand them out as needed, as purchased, but also them being frozen would allow for a little bit more work from the dog to get access to the snacks. The second step is calculating costs. Okay, so what are your food costs going to be per lick mat? Typically, you want it to be $1 or less. Okay. Next piece is staff time. So how much time is it going to take and or wages? I don't know why I did that. Staff time slash wages. Same kind of deal. I want to make sure that it costs around 50% or 50 cents to $1 per lick mat to prepare and clean it after. One little cleaning tip might be that you might want to soak them for a little while before you scrub them clean to make it less work for you to clean them up. Third piece of calculating costs rather is just totaling these two. So, let's just pretend it's $2 about per lick mat of costs from food costs and staff costs. Staff time and wages should be about, like I said, 50 cents per to a dollar per mat. Third piece is setting a price. So you want to think about a price range. Most often people are willing to pay anywhere between $8 to $12 per mat. So you want to set the price. You got to be aware of how much it costs you before you want to set the price. I wouldn't go any lower than $8 personally, but the world is yours, so you do as you wish. The fourth piece is actually preparing the lick mats. So how do you do that? It's pretty simple. Typically, don't think about trying to feed them an entire meal through it. Like literally a couple of tablespoons of each product, whether it's one, two, or three, or even perhaps four is plenty, depending on the size of the dog. Obviously, if it's a smaller dog, doesn't quite need as much. If it's a large breed dog, 3 tablespoons is probably good. So what we want to do is spread the food or squish it in, okay? And then we're going to freeze it. Next, as far as preparation goes, about a tablespoon, about 2 to 4 sections, different areas of the lick mat. Second piece is you want to flatten and press ingredients into it. Third step would be stack and freeze if they're stackable. Obviously, don't stack them without maybe, you might have to put some parchment paper in between if they're not very stackable and they'll all freeze together. We don't want that to happen. So that's not helpful. Next piece of it is launching the offer. So what do you want to do? You really have to figure out the start date. There's not a lot. So you're like, hey, when is it, choose a start date of when you will offer them and how many you will have, maybe anywhere between 10 to 100. Depends on the size of your facility, so don't worry. But smaller facility, hey, do 10. If you got a really large facility, maybe you make 25, 30, 50, etc. And just test out how interested people are in them. A facility I know makes 100 and they sell them in a couple weeks, but they have a higher volume for daycare and boarding. Number 6, implement safeguards. Okay, this is important as well. So what we want to do is, what's a safeguard? Well, it's just a way to make sure the dog doesn't get injured or hurt, or, one way to do this is crate or kennel the dog to make sure it doesn't like get into an altercation with another dog because they might, fight over that resource. Another piece of this is supervise. I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable at all myself putting a dog in a crate or a containment kennel and then closing it and walking away doing something completely else because some dogs might rip this apart and or try to consume the actual silicone or plastic or whatever material the lick mat is made out of, which obviously is not good for anybody. So we want to supervise it. So that way, what I would probably do from a systemization kind of standard operating procedure is try to give 5, 10, however many lick mat dogs that get it per day, give them the lick mats around the same time. So I can just visibly watch them all and take them away once the dogs are done with them. It's another whole issue taking them away. So you got to make sure that, you don't have any possible issues where some dogs are possessive or guard, food resources, and you could potentially get hurt, or one of your staff members could. So you can always if the dog was crated, let the dog out first, put it back in its area, then go get the lick mat versus breaching into the kennel to get the lick mat out while the dog's in it as well. So that could be a little example of some safeguards for your team. But supervision is a must. So step 7 is how you're going to market the add-on. Well, you might want to mention it during drop-off to, clients that are coming through for boarding our daycare. Hey, just curious if you heard about our new lick mats we're offering. and if you'd like more information or potentially to add one on for your dog for today or a few times during their stay. So that's one way you can market it. Another one is just mentioning, okay, number two is, sharing on social media. I'm just going to put SM, photos or videos of dogs enjoying. Um, and, where you have some kind of a call to action, like, hey, comment if you'd like to add on or have more information about our lick mat add-on offer or our lick mat offer, our option. And then the last thing would be, add it to your booking software if that's an option. So if people can book online for whatever, you just have an add-on, um, kind of check the box type of thing, or if people want to add it, and you might need to include in that how many. So for example, if a dog's boarding for 10 days, well, they might want to add 3 or 5 or 10. Then, you got to be able to allow them to do that. I wouldn't give more than one per day, but you do you. Last piece is step 8, prevent potential issues. Okay. So what are the potential issues? Well, they're going to chew and wreck them, and or swallow them. So one way you can avoid that is by, when someone shows interest, asking them specifically, hey, do you feel like your dog is an intense chewer and tends to wreck plastic or silicone or whatever types of toys? And if they say yes, then it's like, okay, this probably is not a reasonable alternative for your dog. So that's one way you just ask for the family member. Second thing to be mindful of is allergies of both dog and human. So if someone expresses interest in the lick mats, you ask, hey, do you have any allergies yourself? Or does your dog have any allergies to any specific foods? Obviously, we're only talking about foods. We don't necessarily need to know all their allergies. And if so, the reason why I say the human and the dog is because let's pretend you put peanut butter on the lick mat, and then the family comes and picks up the dog, and one of the kids are allergic to peanut butter, and the dog has peanut butter on its face. That's not a good. So peanut butter might be one that you might want to avoid entirely. Very seldom do dogs have any real allergic reactions to, for example, applesauce or fruits and etc. So that. The third part about prevention is supervision. Okay. So that way, like I had already said earlier, you can provide that stimulation for the dog where they get to enjoy, a little bonus thing that they would have not normally during daycare and or boarding. That is really interesting to them and they would look forward to, I'm sure. Maybe not look forward to, but they would get excited for, I should say, that can add up to a lot over time with very minimal investment. You could probably, like I said before, get started with 10 to 20 to 30 lick mats and supplies, food supplies for, about $200. And, gain a lot of revenue back from it while people are getting excited and being happy that their dog got a little bit of extra attention, enrichment, muzzle stimulation while they were away. By all means, this, like I said already, is not an exhaustive list. Take precautions, ask any questions, and set this up with your team to make sure that it is done as safely as possible. If you have any questions about this, don't hesitate to comment on this video. Otherwise, reminder, comment PDF if you want access to that 8-step PDF and get fired up today.